Welcome to DR-TSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to Soumya Dattaji. He has returned from Dharmashala. The press conference also, I was trying to take bits of it and putting them in my latest shows and all. How come elections go around without understanding what is happening in India, in every city, every town? What is happening with rivers? What is happening with water storage? What is happening with heat, the temperatures which are rising when they are going on election campaigning? They go in AC vehicles, they fly by aeroplanes, helicopters, but unfortunate voters, the people are there on the ground taking that intense heat and sufferings. Still, these people don't discuss why this sudden change, that is we call as climate change, and Supreme Court has also had come out exclusively stating, and I'll show you that also. जब मौसम सुहाना है तो सब कुछ ठीक है, जब मौसम खराब है, इतनी गर्मी, वो चुनाव के समय कैसे हमारे राजनीतिक दल और हमारे नेता इसके ऊपर सोच क्यों नहीं लगा रहे? क्योंकि वो एयर कंडीशन बस में आते, हवाई जहाज में आते और एयर कंडीशन कार्स में घूमते, लेकिन हम जैसे जो चुनने के जो हमारे संविधान है, हम जो चुनाव के लिए हम जो वोटर्स है, हम जो है बेचारे वहीं पर रहते जहां गर्मी को सहते हुए। क्यों हो रहा ये गर्मी? क्यों ये चुनाव का मुद्दा नहीं बना? एटलीस्ट उच्चतम न्यायालय सुप्रीम कोर्ट जिस तरह इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड्स की पूछताछ की और सब कुछ खुल्लम खुल्ला कर दिया, उसी तरह मौसम का हाल भी मेरे ख्याल से सुप्रीम कोर्ट के बाद में ही क्या ये चुनाव का एक प्रक्रिया बन जाएगा। सौम्य दत्ता जी, पहले आई विल टेक फर्स्ट फॉरवर्ड व्हाइल आई ट्राई टू शो यू एवरीथिंग। यस सर, प्लीज।
ओके, थैंक यू डॉक्टर रेड्डी। एंड जितने लोग देख रहे हैं सबको नमस्कार, गुड आफ्टरनून, गुड मॉर्निंग, whenever you are looking at it. Today basically we'll be talking about what is actually happening, three things. What is happening to the climate systems, and most importantly, since we are right in the midst of the electioneering campaign, the 3 months of April, May, and early June, the election campaign will end. And these are the April and May have been forecast by the IMD, India Meteorological Department, Bharatiya Mausam Vibhag, to be having lot of heat waves, much more than usual heat waves. We know that last year also we had heat waves. 22 also we had very bad heat waves. The people died, the crop production got a shock. So this year the India Meteorological Department has forecasted that during the months of April and May and also June, of course, the election campaign will end on June 1. But the months of April and May will be the peak months where tens of thousands of people everywhere will be out in the meetings. And most of these meetings will be in the daytime, often in the very hot sun. And as we have seen, if you go back to last year, roughly around the same time, 17th of April, the Home Minister was having a large meeting in Kharghar in Navi Mumbai, and tens of thousands of people were there. They were brought from different places. But unfortunately, and as it is normal for our heartless, senseless political leaders, most of them, they didn't arrange any water or any cooling things for the people who were sitting in the sun. So unfortunately, 13 people died in that meeting, and more than 50, by some estimates around 200, 230 people fell sick because of the very strong heat wave. So looking at this, let us focus on three things. First, why there is so much of unusual things happening in the climate system. What is the reason? Because this is not, at least from last year, this is one data that you can see. We know that the greenhouse gases, including the most important greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, have been rising in concentration because the whole world is burning huge amount of coal, oil, and gas. Deforestation is continuing. So the carbon dioxide is being emitted roughly around 40 gigatons per year, or 4,000 crore tons per year. But in earlier years, we used to see that the increase in the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere used to be around 2.2 to 2.5 parts per million every year. And that's a huge amount. And that shows that 15 to 20 gigatons of carbon dioxide are accumulating in the atmosphere. Can we go back to that figure? That CO2 figure? All right. So that was a huge amount, because 15 to 20 gigatons, or 1,500 to 2,000 crore tons of carbon dioxide was getting accumulated every year, because we are emitting 4,000 crore tons. Out of that, roughly 2,000 crore tons were getting accumulated in the atmosphere. But this year, from the last months of last year, what we are seeing is the rise, which we call year-on-year rise of carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, is reaching 4 parts per million to 5 parts per million. That is the increase. That means at least 30 gigatons, or 3,000 crore tons of carbon dioxide has accumulated or is accumulating every year now, which is an extreme acceleration in the dumping of carbon dioxide and accumulation of carbon dioxide. And as we know, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, CFCs, these are all greenhouse gases. The more their concentration in the atmosphere, the more heat absorption from the earth will be there, and the earth will heat up more and more. So this is one factor. The other factor that we have been seeing from the last year, again from around May, June, is that, and if we can go to this planetary boundaries, this colorful chart, this one, yes. Last year, if you know, that 2009, there was an international study by scientists from different countries, and they identified 9 Earth systems and 9 planetary boundaries, beyond which, if we go beyond them, if we are disturbing them beyond the boundaries, then the whole Earth system, including the climate, is a very complex system. So there are 9 Earth systems. If we break the boundaries, then they might go into a catastrophic change. That means we will not be able to do anything, even if we stop burning everything and stop eating and stop doing everything. So they will be becoming bad and worse on their own. Last year, in 2023, there were 3 studies till date. One is 2009, one is 2015, and the latest study was completed in 2023 with a much larger group of scientists from all across the world. And what they found, that we have either crossed or about to cross 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries. And this is an extremely worrying situation, because as I said, and as the scientists have been warning us, that if we cross the planetary boundaries, break them, then it might not be possible to stabilize the climate, whatever we do. But as per latest scientific studies, 6 of the boundaries have either been broken or about to be broken. And since these are planetary systems, this time for breaking might be a few years or a decade or that kind of thing, which is very short in terms of even a person's lifetime. So this is the kind of situation we are facing. Over the last year, roughly, we have also seen all across the world, the sea surface temperature is unusually high. And the scientists are failing to explain why the sea surface temperature is so much above.
Sir, your audio, sir.
Going up and a little bit. Scientists have failed to actually explain clearly what are the factors that is contributing to this amount of rise. They have calculated some other factors like the reduction of sulfur dioxide in shipping fuel, etc. But that do not account for the massive rise in sea surface temperature. So that's one. Along with that, we have also seen the Antarctic ice formation in the winter is the lowest in record. The 2023 was probably the hottest year the warmest year in the last 1 lakh years, last 100,000 years. That's what scientists are estimating. From their fossil records of temperatures, they are saying 2023 is probably the warmest year in the last 100,000 years. So looking at all these factors, though it is very surprising that IMD said, in spite of the El Nino, which was on from last year, middle of last year, El Nino is ending and La Nina will soon start, and La Nina generally cools the world a little bit. But the scientists of IMD have said this year, in 2024, the months of April, May, June, will have a massive heat wave incidence. And normally heat waves are, now you can see this, if you can focus on the La Nina thing, just for a moment. Yes, this one. With this, you can see that the condition of El Nino is ending and a La Nina condition will be coming roughly around from May onward. La Nina conditions will be developing, or it has started developing. So in spite of that, and as I said, El Nino conditions warm the earth, La Nina conditions tend to cool the earth a bit. But probably the amount of greenhouse gases, the amount of heat contained in the upper layers of the oceans, the reduction of ice surface, all these probably are contributing and combining to make the earth even hotter when it should be cooling down a little bit. So IMD has predicted, and I am repeating this, and this is very important because we are right in the peak of the election season, the national election season, the parliamentary election season, that the month of April, May, June, we'll have a lot of heat waves, very large parts of India, except the Himalayan states and some of the northeastern states, will be facing massive heat waves. And the heat wave duration, not only the temperature, the heat wave durations predicted are also much longer. Last year and 2022, last 2 years, when heat waves were there, most heat waves lasted from 4 to 8 days maximum. This year, the IMD's prediction is, I don't know, this is still a forecast or prediction. We are yet to see this. The IMD's forecast is heat waves might last from 10 to 20 days. So this is right in the midst of a season when very large number of people in tens of thousands will be attending public meetings. They will be brought and their parties will be expecting them. They will be crowding together in the hot sun. And most of the places, probably there will be no cover to shield the sun. So this is a very dangerous situation. And this situation, we must remember again, last year, around the same time, 17th of April, just in one incident, 13 people were killed and more than 50 fell ill, or more than 250 fell ill by unofficial estimates. And this year, last year, there was no such election season. So that was one-off meeting. This year, April and May, there will be thousands and thousands of such meetings where tens of thousands of people will be assembling. So I think even though there were a couple of meetings from the Ministry of Climate Change, that is Environment, Forest and Climate Change, along with the Ministry of Water, and along with 2-3 other ministries and the NDMA, the National Disaster Management Authority. But the advisories the government has given out do not take into proper account of both the factors, that is the heat wave and the heat index, that is when heat and humidity both rises simultaneously. So that is an even more dangerous situation. And in that case, if the heat index rises or the wet bulb temperature rises above 34 to 35, even drinking enough water, taking rest, these do not help much. So what will be the response of all these official agencies is not very clear. They have just issued advisories to the political parties. They have issued some advisories to the state governments. But on the ground, we are not, because the election meetings are already on, we are not seeing precautions to save people's lives and health from this kind of heat wave and heat index. And you must also understand that along with all these meetings going on and will be going on in larger and larger numbers, because the election campaign is just picking up now. The peak is yet to come. So along with this, the normal working of people who have to work in exposed areas, like the street vendors, rickshaw pullers, porters, all of these people, and the farmers, because this is also the harvesting season. In many states, this is the harvesting season for the Rabi crop. So the mostly in North India, it is wheat. This is being harvested right now, or maybe harvesting will start in a day or two, because all of us know now it is the Ugadi and New Year and Lohri and Baishakhi and all this. This is the harvesting season for the Rabi crop. So crores and crores of small farmers, agricultural laborers, they will also have to work exposed to this severe sun, exposed to the heat wave in this for days and days together. So what is the plan of the governments? We are not clear, except issuing advisories which do not reach this kind of people. Advisories have been issued, don't go out in the sun, take protection. What kind of response mechanisms the government plans to do, it is not clear. Though we know there are a lot of response mechanisms which are possible, and we would probably have to request collectively to the Election Commission that you give advisory to the all the state election officers. And today, actually yesterday in today's news, that one very good news that came is the Supreme Court in a proactive step, while it was hearing this case of the protection of the great Indian bustard in the desert national park areas of Rajasthan, which were dying from the transmission lines, exposed transmission lines of solar and wind power plants. They earlier gave an order for underground lines. They modified it. But along with that order, what they have now, the Chief Justice led a bench, 3-judge bench led by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, has come out, is, and I'll say we all should welcome this proactive step. They have interpreted people's right to get protected from climate change impacts as part of the right to life, both Article 21 and 14. So that's a big step forward. I think citizens groups will have to take proactive steps now and take this forward, approach the electioneering process, also educate the political parties if they can reach out to them, because electioneering is important, preserving democracy, and particularly in this kind of situation today where we are seeing almost the emergence of fascism. So in this kind of thing, this kind of situation in the country, participating in political meetings, participation in the election process in larger and larger number is extremely important to preserve the democracy. But along with that, it's also important that ordinary people who do not have the luxury, as Dr. Reddy was saying, do not have the luxury of moving around in air-conditioned cars, going and sitting in air-conditioned rooms or protections, and they will be out in millions and millions. So protection for this kind of people from both serious health impacts and might be even death is extremely important. And that's one area that we will ask all the parties, the Election Commission, all the state election officers or chief electoral officers of states, and the state administrations. I think it's a huge responsibility for all of us. Dr. Reddy, if you have any...
I think this is a welcome judgment in the midst of the election season. Why not people vote from home, like what is happening in America? Why we should have voting only that day? And why these meetings spread over such large-scale meetings, spending so much of money, carrying people everywhere, and that too when the heat waves are persisting. Very difficult to go around in Hyderabad or Delhi or any parts of the
I know this is in many parts, particularly even in towns and cities where even 40-degree was not very common, like Kolkata and some of the eastern Indian states. There are now temperatures which have already been recorded 41 already, and it is April just started. So April and May and June are yet to come. So what you are asking is important, but I think a question of getting more than 92 crores electorate, getting their votes from their homes. We are far from that kind of situation even now. And I'll repeat this, that it's not only the voting process. In an electoral democracy, in a vibrant democracy, it is also important to take part in the political process preceding the voting. Because we do go vote for one day, but we do also attend meetings, we read about parties' manifestos, we question people when candidates come to candidates or their representatives come to campaign. We can question them in meetings. So that as a whole is an important political process. But I think given all this, the elections could have been preponed a little bit, because everyone knows that the April, May, June is the peak summer. Particularly April and May are the peak summer, because by June, early June, monsoon comes to South India at least. Given that, and I am not putting any judgment or comment on the Election Commission and others, but from a very clear people's safety perspective, you are bringing out crores and crores of people all across the areas where very high heat is already forecast. IMD is a government agency. We are not saying this. The India Meteorological Department is saying this. The government knows this because IMD has given the warning to the government first. That's why the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, National Disaster Management Authority, Ministry of Water Resources, and 2-3 other agencies did some meetings on this. But what we see is just advisories. No preparation on the ground. I'll say we have to give this political process enough space. But
it's common sense, no, sir. It's a common sense. It's a common sense for Election Commission of India. Don't they think they can't go out other than air conditioning cars?
They will not be going out in unprotected areas. No, they will be going in AC cars.
That's what AC cars, they fly in aeroplanes, and their offices are air conditioned. Sitting there, they don't understand what is happening at the ground level here in Telangana, in Hyderabad. I'm saying city itself, it is very hot, very difficult to go out. Then how do you expect people, voters, to go for the meetings to understand what leaders or politicians are saying? Now, politicians are very comfortable. They go in AC buses, they fly in helicopters, and they use air conditioning cars, and they have the best of the methods, disaster management methods to protect themselves. But on ground, what is that people have got, voters have got? How is that they are neglecting? Now, at least don't you think this Supreme Court judgment should enlighten even people, voters also, along with...
I think that this judgment has a lot of potential, though some people have started criticizing in other angle, say, like with the Great Indian Bastard angle. But I think that's a small issue. The Supreme Court has done reasonably well, because the Supreme Court cannot become an activist from one point of view. The Supreme Court has to take a balanced view, otherwise it will lose all its credibility. So I think by that, Supreme Court has done very well by proactively bringing right to people's safety from climate change impacts. This is a really, really good angle. And as I started saying, this is not just a coincidence. We knew that this is the election season. Number one, this election season was declared by the Election Commission. And this was known because the present government term is coming to an end. We knew this is the peak summer. We know that, and without fail. We also knew from IMD's work, even more than 1 month back, that this summer is going to be even worse than many of the other bad summers in terms of heat and heat waves and heat stress. So given all this knowledge, pre-existing knowledge, the government of the day was expected to take proactive steps. Okay, like if I talk about this, I would have said the Election Commission and the government would have taken steps that most of the public meetings should have taken in the morning or late afternoon, leaving apart the hottest part of the day. Like from 11:30 or 12 to 4, you should have no public meetings. So that's one protection measure. They should have also gone ahead and said any large public meeting you should preferably have under some kind of shading. like most of the meetings, 95% of the meetings that we see, election campaigns we see, are held in the open, except where the biggest leader comes, like either the ruling party or the opposition party, the biggest leaders comes, then only you have some kind of Shamiana or
Not
sunset.
only bigger leaders here, resources, electoral bonds have opened up. Only Bharatiya Janata Party and BRS like parties in the state level,
Yes.
TMK, and then comes TMC, Mamata Party, then Congress. Like that, in this course, they have got money through electoral bonds. So the parties with lot of fund are able to provide shades. And don't you think this is going against free and fair election? Not having level playing
Definitely.
fields? And what about small parties and independents? They cannot even afford.
That's the whole farce of the electoral bonds, because the electoral bonds were designed to extort money from corporations, that we are now clearly seeing, and the ruling party and ruling parties in different states at that point of time or now, they have, like TMC. TMC has to basically fight the election in only one state. And TMC probably is a bigger recipient as of exposed data now than Congress. The Congress has to fight elections in at least 20 states. They have to do election campaign at least in 20 states, maybe 25 states. Whereas the TMC has to campaign only in one state, basically.
Yes.
So the Congress getting less money than the TMC, obviously, wherever they have to go, and the Congress getting around 15% of the money that the BJP got. So obviously, BJP will be able to hold meetings in a far better way, putting a lot of money than the Congress will be able to. So this is, again, not a level playing field. And the Election Commission should have stepped in. And we cannot expect the present-day government to step in, because that has no democratic values that we have seen. That is completely gone. But at least the Election Commission, what you can expect of a constitutional authority like an election commission, they should have stepped in. They should have taken notice of all these factors, and they should have clearly come out with clear steps. Election Commission has enough resources. They could have told the government, we need this many thousands of crores of rupees to assure that these people are safe. Forget about parties. The people who are coming, they are not parties. The people who will be voting, they can either vote for BJP or Congress or TMC or BRS or anyway, DMK or ADMK or CPM or whatever.
Left to them.
Protected. So that is a primary duty of the government as well as the Election Commission in the election season. Otherwise, it is the primary duty of the governments, both the central and state governments and the lower levels in districts. But in this, since many of the governments cannot really spend, except the central government is going in and doing this, most of the state governments are not able to spend because of a lot of restrictions. So it is also the duty of the Election Commission to really go and take measures to protect the people who will be exercising their democratic rights and the democratic exercise, not only of coming out to vote, in standing in queues, but also attending for hours election rallies, election meetings. And that is a part of the democratic process that the Election Commission is constitutionally bound to protect. So I think this is a serious question that we must raise. And Supreme Court's recent judgment has opened up more possibilities around that. And that if the Election Commission of the present government is not really taking proper action, then as citizens groups, we also have a responsibility to take it to them, hit them with their duties, that you are duty bound to do this.
Right. So we have last 10 minutes, and what is that you want to say ultimately? Now, Supreme Court judgment there, climate change, it is accepted. And everywhere we have been showing this patched, this thing also.
See, this is another issue that I was thinking of mentioning, because if you have to respond to heat waves and this kind of heat stress, you need not only shade, but a lot of water to be available. All over southern India, the rivers and the reservoirs are running very low on water. Lot of rivers have dried up. Like this report mentioned 13 rivers which have completely dried up.
Yeah.
So this is a very serious situation. There was another report which showed all over southern India, the reservoirs are running at 30, 40, 50% capacity, less than that of what they should have at this point of time in the year.
Yeah.
So how are you going to respond to a heat stress or series of heat waves, long heat waves, if you don't have access to water? So that's another major issue. But I think in the last 10 minutes, let's go beyond also election season, because what we are seeing is many of the earth systems which not only drive the climate, but drive many other systems in the world, like the living systems of the world. See, this graph that the IMD, this chart that IMD has shown on day wise, which are the district which faces the risks of both heat and humidity, high heat and high temperature and high humidity, the yellow parts, and the red thermometer in the yellow ones. I think one of the tasks of IMD also, IMD is a government department, that is a public department, a public service.
Yeah.
One of the tasks of the IMD should be or is a must that for every day of this election campaign, they should issue this and they should proactively take it out, reach it out to the up to the district administration, because district administrations normally don't proactively go and search for this kind of information. So this information, and with an instruction from the government that they should take all precautionary measures wherever there is a warning for high temperature and humidity combination, they should take proactive measures to control and save people without curtailing their democratic rights to participate in election meetings and to vote.
Yeah.
So that's one major responsibility that, again, we don't see much from our government. But let me go a little beyond the election season. We spent a lot of time on this because this is the peak season, and this is the biggest democratic exercise anywhere in the world, because the largest number of voters cast their votes and choose or elect during the Indian election, the general election. But beyond that, what we are seeing over the last few years, that records of the climates are being broken. The temperature record last year, as we said, last year, 2023, was 1.48 degrees Celsius warmer than similar year in the pre-industrial era, 1.48. Whereas the Paris Agreement, all countries said they will try their best to keep the temperature rise within 1.5, which is clearly now being seen is not possible. Last year, the global oceans, they broke all their temperature records, and this is continuing in 24. Last year, when Northern Hemisphere was having summer, the Southern Hemisphere winter, we had the lowest recorded Antarctic ice. We had the lowest recorded or the highest recorded open Arctic. And then there are also the number of hurricanes, number of heat waves, these are going on. And this is one thing that IMD had done to warn, but I don't know how long this will stay in this, that this is a Hindi news, is bar 85% Bharat tapega. That means 85%, up to 85% of India during this summer will be very hot and a combination of heat and humidity. So we know why this is happening. We know where it is going. Beyond that, it is a responsibility not only of a country government, but also globally. But since we are talking in India and we can directly get hold of the our government is directly accountable to us, citizens of India. So we must also, not only in this election season, but going beyond, we must demand that the crores and crores and crores of people who are suffering seriously, already suffering seriously, and these sufferings will increase, the government activate some of the plans, redo some of the plans. There are a lot of plans in the papers. Like there are the 8 national missions on climate change. 3 of them are basically energy missions, energy, solar energy, efficiency, etc. Some of them are supposed to be adaptation missions to help people, like the National Water Mission, which is very badly designed, the National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture, the Green India Mission, etc., etc., or the National Mission on Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem.
Yeah.
The Himalayan is being destroyed, whereas the government sits on its national mission on sustaining the Himalayan ecosystem. But the government also has prepared every state, the state action plans on climate change. Where are those? What kind of action they are having? Where have we seen those being implemented on the ground? The government has, as per their claims, more than 500 district disaster management plan of action. Where are those? How many people even know about this? Where are the consultation with people who are most vulnerable? So I think going beyond this election season, though it is extremely important right now to highlight this, but going beyond this, we must also build up people's movements. We must also build understanding in people that climate change threats are no sort of upper class environmentalism. It's something which is going to continue for a very long time, which is something which is going to increase year after year after year, which is going to impact more and more and more people in tens and 20s and 30s and 40s crores. Already it's impacted and it's going to impact more. So it is high time, if we do not really act on this, and it's the government which has the responsibility, but citizens in a society also have a responsibility to continuously hammer on this, to act on their own, and to force the governments to act on this in the interest of the citizen. So I think we are standing in a very critical juncture. Many scientists are, this is very clear for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Many scientists are quite scared now. In fact, जो हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं बहुत डरे हुए हैं वैज्ञानिक, बहुत सारे वैज्ञानिक जो बड़े बड़े वैज्ञानिक बहुत डरे हुए हैं. यदि आप देखेंगे, if you look at their statements, many people, they are actually quite scared. Where have we reached and where are we going to go in maybe in the next 2 decades? So it's more than high time. Saying it's high time is very normal. Every time we say it's high time.
Right.
But it's more than high time. It's an urgent khatre ka ghanti that if we are not acting on an emergency basis now,
Right.
it will probably be quite late, if not too late. It might even be too late to
Right.
do anything positive, because many of these top earth scientists are pointing out, and I'll end by saying this, that there is a serious risk of the earth systems getting into a positive feedback loop and breaking tipping points, going beyond the tipping points. And if we go beyond that, the systems will start collapsing on their own without us doing anything. And then we don't have any means of
Right.
doing anything as of now, don't have any means to bring them back.
Right. So
I
better
think
take
this
care,
is-
citizens, take care. When you go for
Yes,
elections, when you go out in hot sun, take care. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
already bad, but before everything collapses, we
Right.
have to take urgent measures.
Right. So at least Supreme Court has enlightened us, opened up, and now it's for citizens, political parties, and more than that, Election Commission of India, central government and state governments to save precious lives of citizens who are voters. Otherwise, what has happened on April 7, 2023 in Amit Shah's meeting will repeat. The sorry state of affairs of precious lives voters will continue. Do support DRTSPR channels, Citizens DRTSPR channel and Environment People DRTSPR channels. They're all in larger public interest. So save India, save democracy, save